Okay, hi, my name is Dave, also known as Diamondback Manhunter, and I am going to show you how to make this sound from the song Maniac from Flashdance. Okay, so I am going to open up a new instance of FM8. And the first thing I'm going to do is go over to my master tab and give this 12 voices of polyphony and pull the voices up to 4, give it some detune and some pan. All right, first operator, A. We're going to turn off F for a second. So the general concept here is that I think it sounds a lot like a steel drum. And so one way to get that sound is to set the ratio to 0 and then pull up the offset to like 1.5 or 2, maybe even 3. Yeah, around there. So what this is now is just a simple sine wave, and we're going to, and that's our carrier. And so I put that out, and you can't hear anything because it's a sine wave at 2.2 hertz, and the minimum that we can actually hear is 20 hertz. So that's why you don't hear anything. Weird, right? Well, not quite. I'm going to manipulate the envelope as such, give it some release, and then I'm going to pull out the attack time a little bit. All right, for operator 1, we are going to keep this ratio at 1, and we're going to route this into A. And of course we can't hear anything because I'm not playing any audio through it. That's stupid. I'm going to move this down here. This is the actual synth pattern, and solo that out. So once again, it's playing, but we can't hear anything because it's just a sine wave. And so now we're modulating it with a sine wave that has an actual pitch and has a ratio. And so essentially, by using an LFO as the carrier, it gives it that warble sound. And so we can't actually hear the LFO itself, but we can hear the modulating operator as it passes through. And so let's do the envelope here, pull the attack out a little bit. Pull down our decay, pull out our release, pull this up. All right, I'd say that's pretty good. All right, so then we're going to take C. I'm going to set C at a ratio of 2.0122 or something, and pull up the offset a little bit. And now we're going to route C a little bit into B. We'll pull down the amount that B is going into A, and we're going to push this also into A. All right. Next, I'm going to turn on the filter, and I'm going to send A into the filter. I'm going to first adjust the filter's envelope to give it kind of like a plucky sound. Pluck, pluck. Pull up the cutoff a little bit. Pull up the resonance, the spread, pull this down a little bit with the resonance, and push that out. Okay. Now set D to a ratio of 1 and give it some level, and we're going to send this out left. This is going to be more like a pluck sound. And I want you to turn up the velocity. And the reason is because we're going to need velocity to kind of manipulate how this sounds. In the pattern that I recorded, the upper notes I gave them a velocity of 80, and the lower notes I gave them a velocity of 110. And so this will actually play notes with a higher velocity louder. And so push just a little bit of B and C into it. All right, great. Pull this back up and pull that out. Next, we're going to set F at 2. And this is our last carrier. And we're going to pull this up to about 50 and send this over to the right. And once again, and just put a little bit of F into A, just a tiny bit. Give it our nice envelope. And now we're going to use E to modulate it. And I would say this is kind of just this is straight like that. The offset, pull this up, and you're going to actually put like 6.0122, and that's probably good. Okay, turn it on and send it just a little bit into F. And might want to send some of C and B into F as well. you could do is actually pull the velocity down, so now it'll play the notes with lower velocity louder out of F. So I'd say that's kind of the general idea of that sound. It's pretty good so far. If we go up to effects, we can put on a peak EQ. I'd pull up the top. Oh, sorry, I meant a shelving EQ. Pull up the top end a little bit. And the bottom end. And next, give it some chorus. And so now you have an option. So, you know, if you want to keep working within FM8, you can do that. And so just pull up the reverb. And that's really the only adjustment within FM8 that I would make. So first thing we can do is put in an EQ and give it a high pass filter to remove that crap from the bottom, so you can kind of see that. And that's taking up volume, and we don't need it. Also might give it a low shelf and pull it down by like. Alright, so that's how I would EQ it. You can also pull up a compressor. And so let's just use Logic's standard compressor. And so the way to set the compressor is to pull the threshold all the way down, pull the ratio up quite a bit, and then pull up the makeup gain. And that's how we can set the attack and release times. Turn off auto. And so I'm going to pull up the attack until we really hear the transients kind of coming through. Alright, pull down the makeup gain, and give it about 6 decibels of makeup gain, and pull it down the output gain though, and pull this back up, and ratio, I don't know, figure it out. Actually, that sounds really good with some knee on it. All right. Next, what I would do is there's a couple ways you could go about it. I would say to put on some sort of tape emulation. So you can do that with Kramer tape from Waves. I really like this one. make sure to set the speed at 7.5 and pull the wow and flutter up, because that's kind of primarily what we're using it for. Also give it some feedback. And great. And then last but not least, I would put on a reverb. And I like to use, this is like my favorite reverb plugin, Valhalla Vintage Verb. It's kind of a dark sound, so I'd give it a bright hall. Color 1980s. And then we're hearing it at 100% right now, so EQ up. And then just pull the mix down. And so I would say that's a fairly good representation. We can turn on the other instruments now. Mute that. And so I always set up a parallel compression bus, so I could send that through and give it some parallel compression, give it some kind of punch. And a global verb, that's kind of like a blend verb. So there you have it. I would say please like if you liked it, and subscribe, and hopefully you learned something. I hope I could be of help. And I'd like to do more of these, so if you'd like me to figure out how to make any specific sounds, especially like 80s, early 90s songs, yeah, send me a message, leave it in the comments or something like that. Thank you. Have a great day.